This work showcases a neural network that measures how the Wi-Fi radio signals bounce around in the room and reflect off of the human body, and from these murky waves, it estimates where we are. Not only that, but it is also accurate enough to tell us our pose. As you see here, as the Wi-Fi signal also traverses in the dark, this pose estimation works really well in poor lighting conditions. That is a remarkable feat. But now, hold on to your papers because that's nothing compared to what you are about to see now. Have a look here. We know that Wi-Fi signals go through walls. So, perhaps this means that can't be true, right? It tracks the pose of this human as he enters the room, and now, as he disappears, look, the algorithm still knows where he is. That's right, this means that it can also detect our pose through walls. What kind of wizardry is that? Now, note that this technique doesn't look at the video feed we are now looking at. It is there for us for visual reference. It is also quite remarkable that the signal being sent out is 1,000 times weaker than an actual Wi-Fi signal, and it can also detect multiple humans. This is not much of a problem with color images because we can clearly see everyone in an image, but the radio signals are much more difficult to read when they reflect off of multiple bodies in the scene. The whole technique works through using a teacher-student network structure. The teacher is a standard pose estimation neural network that looks at a color image and predicts the pose of the humans therein. So far, so good. Nothing new here. However, there is a student network that looks at the correct decisions of the teacher, but has the radio signal as an input instead. As a result, it will learn what the different radio signal distributions mean and how they relate to human positions and poses. As the name says, the teacher shows the student neural network the correct results, and the student learns how to produce them from radio signals instead of images. If anyone said that they were working on this problem 10 years ago, they would have likely ended up in an asylum.
Anything to do with reading your brain. But of course it goes further. So in this one, they said, can they understand the inner monologue, the things you're saying to yourself in your own mind? Mind you, by the way, when you dream, like your visual cortex runs in reverse, so your dreams are no longer safe. But we'll try this. So they had people watch a video and just narrate what was going on in the video in their mind. So there's a woman, she gets hit in the back, she falls over. This is what the computer reconstructed the person thinking. See a girl, looks just like me, get hit in the back, and then she is knocked off. So our thoughts, are starting to be decoded. Yeah, just think about what this means for authoritarian states, for instance. Or if you want to generate images that maximally activate your pleasure sensor, or anything else. Okay, but let's keep going, right? To really get the sense of the combinatorics of this. How about, can we go from Wi-Fi radio signals, sort of like the Wi-Fi routers in your house, they're bouncing off radio signals that work sort of like sonar. Can you go from that to where human beings are, to images? So what they did is they had a camera looking at a space with people in it. That's sort of like coming in from one eye. The other eye is the radio signals, so sonar from the Wi-Fi router. And they just learned to predict, this is where the human beings are. Then they took away the camera. So all the AI had was the language of radio signals bouncing around a room. And this is what they're able to reconstruct. Real-time 3D pose estimation, right? So suddenly AI has turned every Wi-Fi router into a camera that can work in the dark, specially tuned for tracking living beings.
This is a demo that shows the ability of tracking people through walls.
Dina Katabi is the professor leading the project, dubbed Emerald, which, as PhD student Chin Yu Shu demonstrates, is a wireless technology that captures motion in real time and regardless of obstruction.
This red dot is Chin Yu moving.
So Chin's not wearing anything special. It's just picking up his movement through the wall.
Yeah, no cell phone, no pendant, no sensor. It's purely based on wireless signals reflects off our body and comes back to the device.
What was the inception for this?
So, like, we work on wireless networks. The question was, can you use wireless networks or Wi-Fi for purposes other than communications? Can you sense the environment with it?
The low-frequency wireless signals not only detect Chin Yu's position in the room, but his elevation from the floor.
Do you want the red dot to fall?
Yeah, let's see the red dot fall.
Okay.
Researchers hope this can better protect seniors at risk of falling. Hospitals each year at a cost of $34 billion.
And when it detects a fall, it sends an SMS message to the caregiver.
And that's just scratching the surface of Emerald's capability. With Chin seated, Emerald homes in on his vitals. Respiration and heart rate are read without wires.
Being able to get the breathing and heart rate in such cluttered environment with people around, that was an aha moment for us. Wow, is it that sensitive?
I have her. She's on the move. There.
Got him. 30 yards out.
Fry the bastard.
Structures. But the critical thing is, we can still do it with something else. There's more and more evidence that small, weak forces can influence brain activity and alter consciousness. And we're about ready to go into this environment. It's called the communication age. Right now you're being inundated with all kinds of communication patterns, which if they're pulsed just right, well, I'll show you what they can do. The effectiveness and consequences of electromagnetic interactions with cells are functions of the complexity of the temporal structure of the fields. Remember, the brain works by chemistry, but it also works on the other side of the coin by electromagnetic patterns, right? Brain waves. If you apply an appropriate temporal pattern, it's equivalent to the molecular structure of the compound. So,
what we've been doing recently is generating words as magnetic patterns. And even though the person isn't hearing it through their ears, their brain is interpreting it. So they're actually having fragments of experiences as if they're hearing it when in actual fact it cannot be.
You know, where are these thoughts coming from? You know, where are these thoughts coming from? You know, where are these thoughts coming from?
Experiencing severe mental anguish.
The microwave auditory effect, remote neural monitoring, synthetic or artificial telepathy, the voice of God, and V2K, most often describe direct mind-to-mind communication obtained by technological means. Unfortunately, this type of patented covert verbal harassment has been abused and the victims harassed for many years in high-level experimental operations, 24/7. Many victims have awoken to a reality of a monstrous program.
Hundreds of people in the valley say they are hearing voices in their heads. And those voices are being transmitted by microwave or other methods.
Well, several viewers asked us to investigate what they call electronic harassment. KMIR 6's Angela Monroe joins us now with what she's discovered. Angela.
Electronic harassment, synthetic telepathy, voice-to-skull technology. Chances are you haven't heard of these terms, but after searching the internet, I found dozens of websites dedicated to the phenomenon and several Valley residents who say they're victims.
How much more can you invade me than to go into my brain?
It sounds like somebody else is reading the book, only it's thoughts.
We're not having a group hallucination. This is actually something that's happening.
These men all live in the area, didn't know each other before the voices started, and say someone is playing mind games with them.
Mostly it's a lot of derogatory comments about whatever you're thinking about.
Only time I ever had a whole sentence, he said, "This is not about you," which just frosted me. If it's not about me, what the hell am I going through all this for?
Kevin Bond says he used to have a normal life.
I was living in the San Diego area, I was clerking for a federal judge, and I noticed that I was being followed by a whole bunch of people.
According to the websites, what Bond is describing is called gang stalking. He moved to Palm Springs to escape.
I started hearing, as you'll hear, hearing voices and what they'll call voice-to-skull or microwave hearing.
Bob Stansfield says his experience was similar and started a decade ago.
They were active in following me around here, and I started hearing the voices a little bit after the vehicular stalking.
Randall Ringer says the voices started when he was undergoing chemotherapy.
The first thing that was said was, "Randall Ringer." And I sat up straight and I went to into the bathroom, and I looked in the mirror, looked myself in the eyes, and I said, "Did that really happen?"
Bond says he's found more than 300 victims locally and is tracking others across the state through billboards.
You're a part of a controlled set of experiments that are happening in real time across you and millions of other people.
We're guinea pigs.
You're guinea pigs. You're guinea pigs in the box, pushing the button and sometimes getting the likes. And they're doing this to keep you in there.
You know, where are these thoughts coming from?
Can you explain quantum entanglement communications?
Yes, I don't think most people understand what I'm about to say anyway, but I will. The way quantum entanglement works is that you can take two particles, quantum entangle them, and then take those two particles and move them at any distance in the cosmos. And let's just say, for example, if you quantum entangle two electrons and you have them spinning in the same direction, and then you take one of those electrons and you shoot that thing out 100,000 light years from the original. If you then rotate the spin on the one electron, if you modify it so that its spin changes, the quantum entangled electron at any distance will simultaneously, in no time, switch its rotation also, because they're quantum entangled. So these communication systems are taking advantage of this aspect of quantum mechanics that most people can't wrap their heads around, and this is what they're utilizing. It's just the new level of science that affords us the ability to communicate at any distance instantaneously.
I've heard about this. I've tried to dig into it, and it's hard to understand.
It is hard to understand. It would be my best way to put it is that when electricity first came out, it was very hard for a lot of people to understand what Nikola Tesla was getting at. But everyone was using it before they even understood it. And this is just where we are right now. It's just a new technology. It's a new conversation. People don't have to understand it yet. They just have to realize it's real.
What other kind of things can this?
Oh boy. Voice-to-skull technology. This is also in the foray of directed energy weapons.
What is that?
The ability to, let's just say, throw your voice into your head, or my voice into my head, or allowing algorithms that now they can blanket a whole geographical area, and they can make everybody change their thoughts. They can, I use the term intrusive thoughts. Back to that fork in the road analogy. If you find yourself where you have to make a decision about something, next thing you know, you catch yourself kind of having an argument in your head with your own voices. Well, the ability to add another one of your voices in there, but have it controlled by somebody else's microphone, so to say, is a very powerful tool. And I think this is a weapon of war that we are seeing happen to everyone around us. The Department of Defense recently started initiating protocols for their employees, their agents, to discuss Havana syndrome-like symptoms. And on that list is that their agents are hearing voices in their head. And this is what they're getting at. This is that technology that, you know, next thing you know, you're trying to make a decision, but there's another Sean in your head that now is actually somebody else's control. And through the manipulation of that voice, they can now push you, just like we have, you know, the cell phones are weaponized now, the social media platforms, and they can engage with an algorithm, and they know that they can push you in a direction by repetitive information being displayed in front of you, similar to the tachistoscope in grammar school, that they can learn your system and they can learn to manipulate it on a personalized level by just assessing you, what the things are that you're interested in, what are your weak points, what's the crack in the dam, what's the angle of attack. And it's through repetition and access. These are simply electromagnetic impulses in your head. It's not that they can't be read, it's not that they can't be copied, and it's not that they can't be just replayed with somebody else's control. I mean, I could get a voice changing thing and I could sound like you if I wanted to. I could call you on the phone, I could call your loved ones, and I could pretend I'm Sean. And they can do that for you in your own head.
Why would you want to talk about history in a brain and behavior course? Because when you talk about modifying brain activity, when you talk about controlling 6 billion brains, it becomes a political issue. It's not just neuroanatomy anymore. It's not just neurofunction. It's not no longer neurochemistry. Most people don't realize this.
Absolutely not.
It's too soon.
We're all part of this big experiment.
What is this doing to a young mind, a teenager?
Well, there's some projects going on where they're actually scanning teenagers' brains over a 20-year period and looking to see what kind of changes they're finding.
You know, where are these thoughts coming from?